Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to a video which is something of a departure from my normal series and may well be a standalone one-off. And in this case, as you can tell from the title, it is exploring the question, could BitChute be an alternative to YouTube? This question first came to mind after a series of YouTube shenanigans, many of which have been ongoing for some time, including the opacity in the way in which YouTube raises or lowers the prominence of YouTube providers and content produced by those providers, the distribution of advertising revenue, and more recently perhaps the massaging of certain search algorithms to benefit or protect films from unwanted scrutiny or criticism, and connected to that, the increased and unhealthy influence and pressure exerted by large and powerful media corporations such as Disney or I'm not sure there are any others, are there? Anyway, it was against a backdrop of such problems and questions being raised by the fairness, accessibility, and usability of YouTube as a medium for freedom of expression and ideas that the question was raised, are there alternatives to YouTube? And a YouTuber who was responding to that very question being raised in a comment suggested BitChute. Now, unfortunately, there have been so many comments since then that I've completely lost track of the video that I'd commented on asking the question and indeed the name of that YouTuber. And I can only apologize for not being able to give you a proper shout out here. As to the main question itself, could BitChute be an alternative to YouTube? I will now provide a spoiler by giving you my answer, which is a definitive yes, no, maybe. I hope to elaborate further on this most instructive of answers over the course of this video. This video will be structured as follows. It will start with a somewhat wild and crazy ride through my own free association of ideas and words, starting with BitChute and moving through concepts such as open source and the value of free access to ideas and information, after which we'll get down to some more nitty-gritty bare bones of BitChute by talking about its layout and ease of use, the basic versus paid versions of the service, monetization, searchability, after which I shall round up with a conclusion. And so let's start with my wild tangent based upon the name of the service, BitChute, and the allure and potential problems of BitChute and its name in overview form. BitChute, of course, immediately brings to mind services such as Bitbucket, which, for those who don't know, is an open source repository for codes, programs, if you like. This is familiar to me through the course of my research. I have produced code exploring models for interacting dark energy and dark matter, and that code is itself hosted on Bitbucket. And as such, the code is freely available for anyone who needs to use it in further research if they wish to do so, or indeed could base their own code upon it, or look at it as a template of what not to do if exploring interacting dark energy and dark matter, if they so wish. And this also gives an indication of how open source is quite appealing to academics, particularly in my field of physics and specifically cosmology. Many of us, of course, use Linux as our operating system. A few will use Macs, but almost all of us will avoid Windows products like the plague. Of course, Macs are not themselves open source by any stretch, although they are of course based upon Linux when you get under the hood. Further indication of how open source is valued in academia, in particular in the areas of the hard sciences, is that the research produced is usually put on what is called the archive. The archive is an online repository of papers which are placed there separate to their final published form in paper journals, or at least in name paper journals. These days there is very little paper copy being produced. They are themselves online, but they are official journals which are refereed or peer-reviewed by scientists who are themselves working in the same field. While I'm now talking specifically about the archive, which is very much predominantly used by physicists, there are similar online repositories for other fields, such as, for example, medicine. As you can see, the archive covers a wide range of areas of physics as well as other fields. And the way in which the archive is used is not universally identical across even different areas of physics, but the principle is the same. The papers appear on the archive so that everyone across the entire world, irrespective of their background, irrespective of even if they work in the field, can access these papers and look at them. And this goes to the core of scientific research and why scientific research needs to be funded, usually by the state through universities or through some other mechanism of external funding. Scientists aim to provide information for access by the whole of humanity. That is the fundamental driving principle goal of doing the research, is to discover new things and add to the body of knowledge of mankind. So having it hidden behind a paywall would be extremely distasteful, if not completely at odds to the principles of doing the work. As I mentioned, there is not a uniform approach to how the archive is used, even within physics. For example, in cosmology, it is generally the practice that you will publish to the archive first, i.e. when your research is at a state that is sufficiently coherent and of high enough quality to submit to a paper journal, you will first submit it onto the archive so that the entire world gets access to it immediately, because the refereeing process takes considerable time. It can take weeks, if not months, for a paper to be refereed and accepted and then published by a journal. So in cosmology, we go straight to the archive first so that everyone has access immediately, can work on the new information that we've uncovered, and the field can move on. The field of cosmology moves on very quickly. This is why it's normally archive first, because if it's not on the archive and being worked on, it will be overtaken by somebody else's research, or research will be held back by the information not being available to work on. As I say, not all areas of physics have the same approach. I have an experience of someone working in the same office in the field of plasma physics, where in plasma physics they submit to the paper journals first, and once accepted, then publish to the archive. This can lead to some very unfortunate consequences. The individual in question once submitted a paper to a journal which was held up for a suspiciously long amount of time in the review process. Meanwhile, the referee, as it turned out, who was working in a similar area and who had been holding up the paper by reviewing it very slowly, then published his own work in the same area, essentially gazumping or getting first shout on the discovery that was being reviewed by that person. Highly unethical. Of course, if you publish to the archive first, you remove that human temptation and fallibility whereby someone might be tempted to hold up a paper and get their own paper out first. If you have it on the archive, you have already established the provenance of that research and the order of discovery, if you like. And so you cannot then be gazumped by somebody holding up the paper publication. But wait, if it's just being put straight onto the archive, surely it's not been reviewed by anyone of any standing. How can we value or know the worth of anything that's on the archive? Yes, that is an argument which I've heard put forward before. But then this comes down to how the archive is used. The archive is used generally by other scientists. And when we see papers on the archive, we look at who's written it, the author list, where the authors are from in terms of the academic institution behind it. And we also are pretty good at skim reading the abstract, the beginning of the article, to judge the worth, the originality, and the rigor of the research. We are essentially self-peer reviewing. We're peer reviewing the articles as they appear and judging whether or not to take any account of them in our own research. And while this might sound a little risky, this is in fact exactly what the paper journals are doing anyway. When the paper journals are reviewing or asking for peer review for papers that have been submitted, they are asking the very same people who are doing the research. I received my first journal request to review a paper after publishing my own first research paper, i.e. when I was still a PhD student. And in fact, many of the peer reviewers for paper journals will be PhD students because they are the ones in fact doing all the research. Not that the supervisors are not themselves researching or researchers, and of course they are more than competent scientists. They're the ones in charge of making sure that the lowly PhDers do the research and are researching areas that are worthwhile and likely to yield some sort of meaningful results. That said, the PhD students are the researchers, and they are able to judge the worth of other people's research because they are employing exactly those same skill sets. And so, publishing first to the archive is not only beneficial in terms of ensuring that the work doesn't get gazumped by some other researcher coming out with a finding first, but also it really does allow access, free access, to all the information available to continue researching and progress the research in fields further and faster. Anyway, that's the end of my vast tangent into the allure and benefit of open source and open access to information. However, while this is undoubtedly an appeal of open source, this may be a problem for those who want to make a profit, as most YouTubers do, who want to monetize their channels or are already monetized or would wish to be monetized in the future. Now, not all YouTubers, of course, want to be monetized or care about making a profit, but a great deal of them do, and justifiably so. If they're producing content, usually this takes time, and this usually also also takes money in terms of just you have to be able to spend the time doing this as opposed to doing something else to provide for your everyday living expenses. There is no state funding for YouTube producers. There's no university of YouTubers which is keeping them all nice and safe and paid and not living on the streets under a bridge in order that they can produce YouTube content. So monetization is important. Also, simply having the appearance of open source, i.e. a name such as BitChute, which may be reminiscent of names such as Bitbucket, does not necessarily mean that it is in fact open source. But we shall explore this more as we go through each of the following sections. And so to the layout. By comparison to YouTube, the layout is very uncluttered and quite elegant in that regard. I guess in many ways it looks like how YouTube used to look back in the old days before it was quite so vast and had quite so many options and, again, quite so much advertising all over it. BitChute simply has a scrolling list of featured videos and underneath a list of all uploads, which can be further focused in description down to popular or subscribed or trending videos. But the default is to show all video uploads. As already hinted, there are far fewer people using BitChute as of this moment, and it is rare to see a familiar face pop up in either the featured videos or in the all uploads section. That said, I have found one person of note, that being BirdOPrey5, and I also noticed a video by Jesse Milestone, Mindless Entertainment. Although, upon closer inspection, it was uploaded under the channel of Vote, and I'm not sure if this is with the permission or the knowledge of Jesse, or if it has been simply re-uploaded by somebody else. I can only hope that it's been done with her knowledge. Certainly the video that was uploaded, which was a Brie Larson Rotten Tomatoes video, had all of the information, the links to her channel, the original video, and Patreon, etc., links for her in the description, so it was completely taken from YouTube, video and description. So as I say, I hope Jesse knows why this is up there and the channel is in some way associated or running under permission from her, but who knows. Once you have an account, you can add a number of channels, but only if you pay for it. I will cover this more in the basic versus paid service in a moment, but this is an example of how it is not really fully open source, and this is a pay-for service, or at least it can be. However, once you have your account and your channel set up, you can then add playlists. And again, this is easy to do and easily visible under the profile menu section. Again, with the free subscription, you are limited to 3 playlists. That said, I appear to have gamed the system because you were given a playlist at the start, which was a random string of letters as every new playlist initially is labeled. And this one was designed for you to keep your favorites or liked videos under BitChute. But as with every playlist, you can rename this playlist to whatever you like. So it seems I've renamed my liked videos list to something, and it can be used in the way any other playlist can, in as much as I can add videos to it, and have done so, to the extent that I can no longer remember which of the 4 playlists was the one that was marked as being the liked video list. I guess if I ever like a BitChute video, I'll find out because it'll pop up in one of my 4 playlists where I wouldn't want it to be. But here we hit one of the main limitations of BitChute, that being with the free service, you have a limitation of 3 or 4 if you game the system a little bit, playlists, as opposed to YouTube where you have limitless playlists. Once you have your playlists, or in fact indeed even before you've created your playlists, you can upload videos. The uploading video page is again very simple and sparse in layout in comparison to YouTube, and on some level this is an attractive feature. It is very easy to upload a video and you don't have to faff around with lots of different settings. On the downside, there is some limitations then in what you can do with your uploaded videos, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But on the basic page, you'll have the video title, the description, a content sensitivity setting, which goes from normal upwards in terms of its graphic nature, and normal is content that's suitable for ages 13 plus. Below the normal setting there is not safe for work, and then even worse, NSFL, which I'm not entirely sure what that stands for, but having just looked it up, it was what I guessed it might be, which is not safe for life. Under that, you have the upload video button, where of course you select the file for upload, and you can upload a cover, just like on YouTube, only perhaps even more straightforward and simple. It's all very easy to see in a very basic layout. Once you've finished uploading the video, which you do by clicking on Finish, as long as you have the Publish Now setting set, it will be published and viewable on your channel. And once it is there, you can then edit the settings for the video, which will allow you to show the video versus having it hidden and invisible. You can even delete the video. You can edit the description, the title, and you can add hashtags. Now, this is a much more limited feature than the keyword features you can add with YouTube. And this is definitely a downside. You are only allowed to add 3 hashtags, and those hashtags cannot be more than single words. So if you wanted to have more than one word in a hashtag, they'd have to be compressed together like a hashtag without a space. The categories is straightforward and pretty much like YouTube in terms of the number of categories, and you can enable discussion, so you can have comments running just like you can on a YouTube video, or not. It's entirely up to you. But as I said before, there are significantly fewer settings to be played with here, and it is more difficult to target or flag your videos up for specific searches. I'll come back to this when we talk about searchability. Also, under the profile icon, as well as listing your channel, your playlists, you can also have your subscriptions. People can subscribe to you just like on YouTube. You can turn on and off notifications for channels you're subscribed to. Your main settings for your channel are under here as well, where you can adjust your personal data, including website, URL, etc. A social media tab, which also allows you to put home pages, etc. on. It seems a bit redundant since that's also in your personal tab, but it's there. The interface allows you to modify the look of BitChute in terms of what videos are shown at the top. There are also options here to store a list of recently viewed videos, which might help offset to a degree if you decide to game the system and use the liked videos playlist as an extra playlist, because then you can just look back at your history instead. There's also a show adverts option, where it clearly states that advertising revenue helps cover the cost of running this service. There are also other options in which you can help the service grow. So it has the trappings, like Bitbucket, of open source being funded via contributions from users, although it seems to also get revenue from advertising, which is more like YouTube and the corporate model. So it's a very confusing setup in this regard. It's not quite an open source system. It's not quite an open source ethos. It's also not quite YouTube either. But I'll return back to that when it comes to monetization. You can also choose whether or not to use WebTorrent or standard WebRTC tech to deliver your videos to the user. You can choose whether or not to show your BitChute account on a discussions that you take part on. There's another option that's under the Discuss tab. Again, notifications. You can control notifications that you receive, including for channels you're subscribed to. You can refer other people to BitChute, in which case you can use a referral code. And under the account tab, there's a unique account identifier, which is basically enables you to communicate to BitChute support staff and identify yourself. You can also change your account passwords under here, the usual things you might expect in terms of account control. Next up, we should look at the basic versus the paid service. Outside of the basic free service, which we've already described in terms of the layout anyway, there are 3 more tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. Bronze being $5 a month, silver $10 a month, gold $20 a month. And each one gives you a little more in terms of features. The bronze, which also is quite useful for comparing against the standard, you get a bronze supporter badge. Ooh. Cool. You're allowed a maximum of 1 channel, so again that tallies exactly with the basic package for free. You're only allowed 1 channel. A maximum of 8 playlists as opposed to the 3 playlists you're supposed to only be able to get with the basic free package, although as you know, wink wink, you can get 4 if you mess with the system in the right way. A maximum of 50 playlist entries, so the most your playlist will ever be able to contain is 50 videos, although presumably you can upload videos that would then not be added to playlists that are all maxed out. But again, this gets very messy. I'll come back to the limited usefulness of BitChute later on. But as you can see, there are some disadvantages already compared with YouTube. You also, on the bronze level, get a monthly newsletter. On silver, in addition to everything else I just listed, you get 1 extra channel, you get another 12 playlists, you get double the number of playlist entries, and you get a mug. Oh my god. Meanwhile, under gold, you get everything I've just said before, but you get a gold supporter badge, you get up to 3 channels, 40 playlists, 200 playlist entries, and in addition to all the other freebies, an exclusive t-shirt. Totes worth it. So at this point, simply by comparing the basic versus the paid service, you can already see a major disadvantage of BitChute versus YouTube. YouTube, there is no limit to the number of videos you can upload that I'm aware of. There's no limit to the number of playlists you can have that I'm aware of. You do just have the channel that you have. Now that is common to both, but these limitations in terms of playlists could be a severe restriction in terms of those wanting to use it like YouTube. I know several content providers who have multiple playlists well above the 3/4 available in the basic package. And this might well be a turn-off to anyone wanting to use BitChute in place of YouTube. That said, I'll give my final opinion on its usability versus YouTube in my conclusion at the end. Now, let's look at monetization. Monetization under BitChute is a bit of a mixed bag. In some respects, it is excellent and far superior to YouTube and very easy to deal with the control. Under monetization, you can enable any number of financial supporter schemes, for example, Patreon, and not just Patreon, which we all know about, but if you've got business PayPal, you can set up PayPal for people to donate to on the basis of your videos. There is also Bitbacker, coin payments, and Subscribestar, all of which can be switched on just with a simple toggle button as long as you have accounts set up with them, and you can easily set up accounts because they have the links on the page to help you do that. That is the upside of BitChute's monetization, and it is clear to see why it is a useful and helpfully laid out system on the site. The flip side is advertising revenue. This is where BitChute get a bit cagey and less than transparent in their method of operation. Clearly, they have advertising because you are allowed to enable advertising on your videos, but you do not get the revenue. Now, with YouTube, it is more or less clear how you get monetized and at what level after X number of subscribers, views, videos, whatever. On BitChute, it says advertising may be available as a source of monetization to channels that opt in and meet the following criteria. The opt-in does not make sense as soon as you read the next criteria. Advertising is invite only at this time. How is that a criteria to opt in? I can't opt in unless I've been invited. That's not a criteria. That is, you cannot be monetized via advertising unless we invite you. So, poor wording aside, borderline deceptive wording, basically, BitChute will only allow you to make money from advertising on your videos if they invite you. And it is not at all clear how you get invited. It also states further criteria underneath. Advertising not available for not safe for work or not safe for life. It is not available on content deemed inappropriate by the advertising partners. There's no way to see what that actually constitutes. Perhaps that's simply done by advertising partner preference. And if your channel contains a significant amount of the above content, well, okay, so your entire channel could be blocked for advertising. You've got loads of not safe for work and not safe for life content. BitChute reserves the right to deny or withdraw access to this advertising from a creator and their channels at any time without prior notice. Okay, well that's pretty much, I guess, like YouTube in a way. You can, on the plus side, as a registered user, opt out of receiving advertising via the interface tab on the settings page. Obviously, you won't get any revenue that way, but it would stop any adverts being played on your material, which might be of preference to you. If you're not using BitChute to raise money and you're simply wanting it to show videos clearly and cleanly without any advertising interrupting them. But this money through advertising is, of course, a major part of most YouTube content providers' income. And the fact that it is invitation only and there is no clear indication as to how you get invited on BitChute's own information page, it would be a little worrying. And I can see how creators on YouTube would not want to use BitChute as their main source of income, despite the fact that you can turn on all of these different features to enable viewers to contribute directly to you through a link available on every video you show. It is a much less secure revenue stream than if you're getting a certain chunk of advertising based upon numbers of views. So this lack of transparency on the part of BitChute in terms of how to even get onto monetization through advertising, let alone how the money is then distributed and on what basis and what proportion, is all a little bit off-putting. But for now, I think that's about all I can really say on the monetization aspects of BitChute. Finally, before we go on to my conclusion, there is the searchability aspect. Within BitChute itself, this is straightforward. It would just be like going to YouTube. There is a search bar. You can click in the search bar, type whatever you like in there, and find it. And this is indeed how I found BirdOPrey5, for example, and the video by Mindless Entertainment. However, and more importantly, I would have thought for anyone wanting their videos to be searchable and viewable in a wider context, if you go to popular search engines and search for a video by name or by user or whatever, it will pop up in the search, even in a general search, but certainly in a video search under DuckDuckGo, Google, Yahoo. Your video is easily searchable. I have already uploaded a set of sample videos and playlists to BitChute so I could do a direct comparison. And I looked for the same video with the same name under those 3 search engines. And each search engine will find the YouTube entry every time. However, the exact same video with the exact same name on BitChute will not feature in any of those search engines. Part of this might be down to the lack of ability to add metadata to the videos. These 3 hashtag limits would be extremely debilitating for a search engine attempting to search for a video. That said, I'm putting the full name into this search, which should be more than enough to find the video, it being so specific, and it does so easily for YouTube, but BitChute does not even feature on the radar under the videos search. So this would be of concern to anyone using BitChute. The fact that you cannot search for their videos using a search engine in general, as far as I can see, BitChute in short seems virtually invisible to search engines. This is a problem. And so to my conclusion. In conclusion, BitChute looks amazing, and it looks as though it has the potential to be a strong alternative to YouTube, but has some fatal flaws. Its layout is very nice, it's very clear. Its content does seem a little bit more lunatic fringe than YouTube, but again, it's in a way more like YouTube in the early days. And although it does have an appearance of having a larger proportion of lunatic fringe content, I did manage to find BirdOPrey5, which I'm not sure if that refutes my point or reinforces it. Anyway, that's not the point. I did also find a video by Jesse Milestone of Mindless Entertainment, so there is some good stuff on there, but there is also some really weird stuff, if not downright unsavory. That said, with growth, you would get more balanced content. However, is it going to grow if the content is not searchable? This is a big problem. The searchability of BitChute is definitely going to be a turn-off for many people. On top of that, the monetization, while having excellent facilities to add external payment methods to your videos, like, for example, Patreon, Bitbacker, coin payments, PayPal, Subscribestar, that is a welcome and incredibly useful feature, one that YouTube would do well to steal. But the lack of advertising revenue and the lack of transparency in even the means to acquire advertising revenue is a definite turn-off for professional YouTubers or semi-professional or people who are getting some measure of their income from YouTube. This will be a huge turn-off for them. So in conclusion, I do not think BitChute currently is an alternative to YouTube, but I do think it has potential to become so, and it already has the layout and ease of use necessary to be a rival to YouTube. But as it stands, I would use it as a backup for those videos I most want to keep and would like to be available in case YouTube suddenly goes down or goes insane and starts throwing content providers off left, right, and center. And in the current climate, I can see BitChute as a backup being a very attractive option to many of the YouTubers I know and are friends with on YouTube at the current time. So anyway, I hope this video has been at least helpful, and by all means subscribe to me on BitChute as well as on YouTube, and if you would like to sign up to Patreon, you could be the first person ever to do so, and I think I'd have to make you executive producer for life if you did, and that's the only shameless plugging of my own monetization I intend to do. I can't see myself doing another of this style video for a while, so the next one I hope to put up will be the next in the best sword fighting films of all time series, number 3. And I hope you will join me for that one. Take care.